Hi, I'm Dana, and I somewhat feel like I have the mental capacity today to be able to do one of the deeper videos that I've been wanting to do for a little while. Because I have been finding myself quite triggered by quite a lot of things while I'm watching TV, when I just hear people out, when I'm out and about, and I hear parents talking to their children, especially just random conversation. I have quite a lot of anxiety triggered, and I'll like suddenly feel really anxious and be like, oh god, no. And every now and again it comes with like the memory flashbacks where like I'm not like back in the moment re-experiencing it, but this memory will just suddenly come to mind and I'm like, oh yeah, that was horrible, wasn't it? That's why this like phrase, this image, this like random thing is triggering the absolute shit out of me and making me feel really, really anxious. And that's happened to me for like the entirety of my adult life. But it took me a very long time to put together that a lot of the things that my parents did were actually quite shitty and often quite abusive and generally weren't actually anywhere near as normal and ordinary as I thought. And it took a hell of a lot of unpacking to get to that point, and it still takes a lot of unpacking when I have memories pop up and I'm like, is this like a normal thing that children go through that just happens to be upsetting? And because I was growing up with undiagnosed autism, it was especially like a bad time for me. Or is it actually like this isn't normal and this shouldn't have been being done? And I've done a lot of effort of unpacking, and as such I feel like it maybe is a helpful video to talk about some of the ways that my parents punished me for what were basically my autistic traits and things that I couldn't really overly help. Because like I say, it's all stuff that I massively normalised. My family normalised it. These were completely ordinary punishments that were done on the regular. And I feel like there's probably a lot of people that can find this helpful in ways where I really needed someone to tell me that these things weren't normal. It took me years to be able to like figure it out myself. So this is me doing it for other people and be like, yeah, they're not normal, buddy. Like that's not actually, it's really not cool. So the first one is having my bedroom door taken away. And I feel like this is one that you hear about like semi-regularly. Like this is definitely one that I saw other people talking about online. And that was when I was like, oh, is that not just like a normal ordinary punishment? Like I absolutely hated it when it happened to me. I hadn't placed it as being abusive. I hadn't placed it as like an infringement upon the little privacy that I had as a child, you know? And obviously everyone's like stories of this differ, so I'm gonna give you mine. Because I had my door taken away from I want to say I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And it was up until we like moved house when I was just after I turned 10. So I had like 2 years of not having a door. And there was a good period where I just didn't have a door. There was just a gaping doorway and there was my bedroom. And there was then a point where I got a curtain because I was like constantly making a fuss of it because I had two brothers that were 8 and 9 years older than me and that just brought their friends around. So I'd be in the middle of playing, I'd be in the middle of getting changed, I'd be in the middle of sleeping, and all of a sudden there'd just be like teenage boys directly outside, like not outside my room, like I didn't have a door, they were just stood in the doorway fucking right there, you know? So I kicked up a big fuss and eventually got a curtain put there. And what had caused me to have my door taken away and have a curtain slash doorway instead was that when I had meltdowns, I would run to my room when I was overwhelmed, when I was having a hard time, when things were going badly for me. I would run to my room, I'd lock myself in there for a while. And I say lock myself in. Well, I feel like Americans often do have locks on their bedroom doors. That's not a common thing in the UK from what I'm aware. So I would barricade my bedroom door eventually, and my parents wanted to continue. Often this was while I was being shouted at or told off or something. It was when I'd been like sat there with my maths homework for like 3 hours and my dad usually was like, what are you not getting here? And I've already been crying for an hour and a half and it's actually way too much and now he's pissed off at me too, and I'd run off to my room. And my parents were like, no, we should get to continue just shouting at you and telling you off and overwhelming you and massively giving you a horrible fucking time. We should be able to just continue doing that indefinitely. You shouldn't have anywhere safe to go and hide. You shouldn't have anywhere safe to regulate your emotions to be able to come back out to us. We're not allowing that. So they took my door away so I couldn't barricade myself in my room. So when I'd run off to my room and I need like just because that's one of the things that really frustrates me as well, is that I would get it more if it was like for hours and hours and hours and I just like refused to engage or do anything. But I was like a 6, 7, 8 year old running off to my room for like 15 to 20 minutes, having like a big cry into my bed, getting that emotion out, calming down, and then going back to the situation. Like I feel like I was actually handling it in a very fucking mature way for like a very young child, you know? But my parents were like, no, you don't get any sort of escape, you don't get any sort of privacy, you don't get any like privacy and space to regulate. That's not for you. You're under my roof, you're my child, you belong to us. And if we want to keep telling you off, if we want to keep overwhelming you, if whatever the fuck the situation is, we're going to keep doing it and we're not allowing you to have a door because that's how you stop us from doing it. So from that point onwards, when I ran off to my room, I'd just be followed by whoever was telling me off. They'd just follow, and I'd be laying on my bed face down, like screaming and crying into my pillow, and they'd just carry on. Like, and I remember having friends around that were like, why do you not have a bedroom door? Like, especially given that my parents tried very hard to give like a very middle class sort of image. It was really out of like the norm for the house, because I definitely had friends that didn't have bedroom doors, and it's like, yeah, but they don't have a bathroom or a living room or a kitchen door either, you know? Whereas that was the only door missing in the house, and I was like, my parents took it, like, duh. Don't your parents just take your door? It's normal. It just happens sometimes. You just don't get any privacy anymore. You just don't get any safe space. One of my mother's favourite punishments was just flat out silent treatment. And again, I didn't realise this was like not a normal, even healthy thing to do. You know, like it was very much like I was gaslit to believe like everyone deserves to have space away from the moment. Not me, obviously, take away my bedroom door, but everyone else deserves to be able to have space away from the moment. So if you're annoying someone, if you're pissing someone off, they deserve to be able to just ignore you for hours or days afterwards because you've annoyed them. That's just the consequence to your action. Why should they have to engage with you when you're annoying them and you're, you know, like pissing them off? Why should they have to engage with you? They don't, even if that's your mother. Like if she felt like I was nagging at her for something, if I was just generally being annoying that day, often when I was like, you said that we could do that thing today, she'd be like, no, I didn't. I bet you literally did. You told me like on this day we can do that thing, and I've been looking forward to it and waiting for it, and she'd insist she hadn't said it, and there'd be a bit of back and forth, and then she just wouldn't speak to me for the next like 3 days. And we're talking like we'd be sat at the dinner table and there'd be the green beans in front of me, and she'd be like, Jay, can you ask Dana to pass the green beans, please? Can you ask Dana to pass me the salt, please? And if I was like, can you ask Mum like this or that, she'd ignore it. Like, quite often my brothers played into it and would just refuse to say it anyway. My dad tried to help me out in those situations, but my mum would just, it wasn't even silent treatment. Like, she wouldn't look at me. Like, she literally acted as though I was, like, invisible and soundless and just wasn't there. And it'd be for, like, the longest I remember doing it for was about 3 days. And it was over the most, like, minor, normal child things. And I'm including this in, like, being punished for my autistic traits, because it was very, very regularly when I was like, but you said we could do this thing. And I think that a lot of her parenting tactic was, it's a kid, it'll forget by the time comes, it's not going to remember. But I did, and it really annoyed her. Now, one of the things that's triggered me is when I'm watching TV shows and someone gets told to go to their room, because I had a good little phase of being told, go to your room, when I was like being naughty or annoying someone or whatever else. And then my mum, again, most of these are my mum. My dad wasn't really involved in parenting or involved in the household. He was just in his study. So a lot of these were my mum. And we had a good phase of her being like, go to your room when I pissed her off, or like if I refused to eat my dinner or whatever else. And then she realised when I get sent to my room, I've got a PlayStation 1, I've got a load of VHS tapes and a TV, I've got all of my books, I've got all of my toys. So after that, I would get sent to sit at the bottom of the garden. And like, we didn't have like the biggest garden in the world, but it was a fairly long garden. And I'd just have to go and we had, I don't know why I'm going into this much energy of explaining this, but we had like flower beds down either side, and then there was like a little like side garden to the house, and there was a little like, there was a hedge at the bottom with the flower beds on either side and a bench in the middle, and from like, it was directly in front of the kitchen window, so I'd just have to sit on that bench. I'd be like watching my family like have a family dinner and my mum doing the dishes and just like them doing what families do, and I'd just be sat on this fucking bench at the bottom of the garden just watching it for like, I don't want to say hours because it just feels a bit unrealistic, but it felt like I was there for like hours and hours and hours and hours. And it'd be things like sometimes I'd go in because I'd be like, Mum, it's starting to rain. And she wouldn't listen to me. She'd just be like, did I tell you could come back in? Go and sit at the bottom of the garden. My memory ran out, so if it looks all different, I apologise. Oh, and there's a fly now, so that's great. But yeah, like I'd go and tell her like, Mum, it's starting to rain, and she'd just refuse to listen to me. Be like, did I tell you you could come back in? I told you to go and sit at the bottom of the garden, so why are you not sat at the bottom of the garden? So I'd go and sit at the bottom of the garden, and a while later she'd come out and be like, it's raining. Why would you think that I would want you to sit at the bottom of the garden in the rain? Why didn't you tell me it was raining? Obviously you can come in if it's raining. Don't be ridiculous. And it's like, but I tried to come in because it was raining and you just told me to come back out. Like the amount of times she'd ask, do you really think that's what I meant? And I'd be like, yeah. Like it's pretty, like, I don't know what else I was supposed to do in these situations. Apparently there was some like magical option that meant that I wouldn't have been like abused and neglected, but I didn't know what it fucking was. Now, having your dinner for your breakfast or your lunch if you didn't eat it. This is one that I fully genuinely thought that everybody in the whole world experienced. If you don't eat your dinner, your mum's gonna dish it up to you for breakfast or lunch. And then there came a point when I was talking about it to a friend, and I say friends, I don't think they ever fucking liked me. And they were like, yeah, Dana, everyone's parents threaten that. No one's parents actually do it. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean no one's parents actually do it? And they're like, yeah, no one does that. And I could see they were getting annoyed with me, so I dropped it. But like, my mum did. If I didn't eat my fucking dinner, and bear in mind this is because I still have a variety of sensory issues around food. I find it really difficult to eat a lot of things, and the things that I do eat are quite often very specifically prepared and specifically served, and it needs to be a whole fucking way, because otherwise I'm gagging and I'm throwing up and I can't physically eat it. So we'd have had that the night before. So like we'd already had that. We'd had the night before where I've been served really lumpy mashed potatoes with beans that are like baked beans in tomato sauce, mind, that are touching the mash and they're all up in there, with chicken that's on the bone, and I can taste the iron and there's all weird little bits of gristle. And talking about it and that, oh, and my mum praised herself when I cooking, but as someone who now cooks my own food every day, she was a shit fucking cook. Like, I didn't think I liked broccoli, I didn't think I liked tomato, like 90% of the things that I eat now I didn't think I liked, because she just boiled the absolute fuck out of it, and we were a no salt, no sugar family. So like, it was already shit food, and that I had a whole host of fucking sensory difficulties and texture issues, and like, I don't like my food touching, and it was a whole thing. So we've had that where I've been screaming and I've been gagging, and she's been going, it's not that bad, it doesn't actually make you gag. Meanwhile, I'm like trying my best to not throw up on the plate of food that she's definitely just gonna make me fucking eat. And obviously, I wouldn't eat it, and then I'd get sent to the fucking bottom of the garden or sent straight to bed. And then I'd wake up the next morning and it'd be before school, it'd be before we were meant to go out and do something, and I'd sit down and I've got a microwave plate of fucking lumpy mash with it being touched by the baked beans with chicken on the fucking bone. Obviously, I wouldn't eat it. And if it's a weekend, if it's school holiday, I'm getting served that for dinner, for lunch as well. And obviously, I wouldn't eat it. And that's when my mum would give up and be like, shit, I guess I do need to like actually feed my child something that it'll eat today. But quite often it would be another dinner that I didn't fucking like, and I'd be there like forcing it down because I'm starving by that point. And I'll give, like, it wasn't super regular, but it was because I forced most of my dinners down, because that was what fucking happened if I didn't, you know? Like, getting through it and just making myself eat something that I didn't like was a hell of a lot easier than being served it again and again and again. Like, it had to really be something where, like, I could not physically deal with eating it for me to be like, I'm not eating that. And talking of being sent straight to bed, that was one of my mum's favourite ones. If I'd been pissing her off all day, if I'd done something she considered to be like really naughty, even if a lot of the things that I did, they would like explain why it was naughty, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I get it now. And they just didn't care, you know? Like, there was no aspect of like, this is a child that doesn't know things, and for her to know that something is naughty or something you don't do, we do actually have to tell her that. But there was none of that. So a lot of things that I did, I was like, oh, okay, I'll never do that again, now that you've explained it to me. But that didn't come into it. So I would get sent to bed, like, a lot. And, like, I was expected, like, it wasn't being sent to my room, I was being sent to bed. Like, my mum would watch me brush my teeth, and I'd get into my pyjamas, I'd get into bed, and she'd close the curtains, and that was that. It don't matter if it's 2 p.m, don't matter if it's 11 a.m, don't matter if it's 4 p.m. And throughout, like, whatever bit of the day is left, she'd come in and be like, are you asleep yet? And I'd be like, oh no. I woke up from a full night's sleep like 4 hours ago. Like, I'm not asleep yet, no. And then she'd be like, I've sent you to bed, so you better go to sleep. The point of being in bed is that you go into sleep, okay? And I'd be like, okay. So I'd just have like hours upon hours upon hours of laying in bed with my eyes closed and just be like, God, I wish I could fall asleep. She's gonna come back in a minute and ask if I'm asleep. And like, even if I didn't reply as well, because I had a lot of my friends that, well, just don't tell her you're awake. And it's like, no, but if I lay there and don't say anything, she's then gonna come over and poke me and be like, I know you're awake really. So like, even if I had ever fucking fallen asleep in those situations, I'm getting woken up. And then the moment that I'm like, oh, well, you were awake the whole time, weren't you? You haven't gone to sleep at all, have you? Like, it just, there was no winning in these situations. There was no doing the right thing. Now, I still spent like the next, like 20 years trying my best to do the right thing. Never found it. And finally, it does sort of tie back to the first point, because I did mention it briefly, but I had so many times that I would get so overwhelmed about all sorts of different things. Like, so obviously being told off was a big one. I always cried when I got told off, and that's just one of those things where, like, sometimes as a kid you need to be told off. Like, I'm not saying that, like, every single time I had a meltdown my parents should have babied me and coddled me and made sure that I was all better. Like, sometimes you do just need to tell your kid off and be like, go and calm down somewhere, kid. But there were also a lot of times, like, I didn't ride a bike from the age of like 6 or 7 until we moved to Denmark when I was like 10 going on 11, and I suddenly had to ride a bike to school because otherwise it was like an hour and a half walk. And it was because, see, my parents taught me to ride a bike, by which I mean we had a flat bit in front of my house and my dad held onto the seat to show me, like, that's how a bike goes, that's your bike. Now go to the top of the hill and just ride your 2-wheel bike down for the first time. And obviously I gained a lot of fucking speed. I didn't really know how to stop, so I pressed the brakes and I went flying over the fucking handlebars. And it terrified me. It was a really fucking scary experience for me. My knees and my hands and some of my face got all cut up. I was screaming, I was crying. It was a whole fucking thing for me. And my mum was just like, what are you doing? Calm down, like, Jesus Christ, you've fallen off a bike. People fall off bikes all the time. Just calm the fuck down, will ya? And start shouting at me, which overwhelms me further and makes me more, like, scared and fucking afraid. And I'm just having a whole fucking time. So I run off to my bedroom and my mother follows me, telling me I'm being so silly. I need to just get back on the bike. What do I think I'm doing? Jesus Christ. Like, and there were a lot of things like that where, like, I'd had falling out with friends, I'd fallen over somewhere. I was just having some sort of fucking time in the way that children often are. I'm having a meltdown, I'm crying, it's all going wrong for me. And now my mum's shouting at me for having emotions, for being upset, for, like, I don't even fucking know. And she'd just follow me around. Like, there was just no escaping it. The moment that I was overwhelmed, the moment that I was, like, showing emotion in a big way and not being, like, the perfect little kid that they wanted me to be, I'm just being followed around the house and told off for it. Like, Jesus. But that carved a path of it being, like, extremely normalised to me. So then when I moved out at 16 with my 21-year-old boyfriend, and he would follow me around the house screaming at me, yeah, obviously, that's what people do. That's what you do to your loved ones. That's how you treat people that you love. You follow them around, you get really mad at them, and the more overwhelmed and upset they are, the more angry you get at them. You just don't give them a single moment to regulate or calm down. That's how you treat people that you love. So yeah, that's the video. Those are, like, they're not normal punishments that my parents gave me for being an autistic child, essentially. Obviously, sometimes, every now and again, I was genuinely doing something wrong. I had been naughty by choice. Like, I was still a child, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times, I was just overwhelmed and scared and having a whole fucking time. And rather than being someone who comforted me and made me feel better, my mum just, like, made it so much fucking worse and punished me for, like, having emotions, having opinions, being the way that I am. And it were rough. It were rough. And it wasn't normal to be like that. So, yeah. I'm drinking decaf tea because of how much talking about this kind of thing is getting me, like, really shaky and bothered lately. And I do think that there's a level to which, like, that's actually a really good sign of healing, because my nervous system is reacting to horrible things in the way that it probably should have been the whole time, instead of just shutting down and being like, no, this is fine, I suppose. So we're taking it as a positive, even though it makes making these kinds of videos harder, and it definitely means I have to look after myself a bit more, which, look, yeah, it's second time I've run out of storage just on this video. We're switching to webcam. We've done the video. This is the outro now, okay? I've just said my whole piece on, like, this is kind of rough, but I do think that, like, I'm actually processing things and dealing with the whole, like, fucking most of my life in a way that I've never been able to deal with before, because I was so on, like, high alert survival mode, just get through what's happening right now. So it's not the nicest to be, like, having so many moments of reflection on, like, the deeper past, but I think I'm actually processing it, and I think that as much as it's a bit rough and horrible to be doing right now, rehashing it will actually benefit me in the future and is going to help my nervous system and help, like, my whole, like, survival thing, and it's a good thing all in all. So that's that. Final little piece. I know most of you are probably sick of hearing it, and the sooner that the GoFundMes are filled, the sooner I'll stop fucking talking about them, okay? So the first GoFundMe that I've been linking down below is for my friend Seth. They're part of our community here online. We became friends because of the Christmas live stream that I did that time. They're very much one of us. And their partner has a whole host of different chronic disabilities and illnesses and things going on with them that mean every time that they need to travel to a hospital appointment, doctor's appointment, to go and have fun and do anything, they're pretty much just repeatedly re-injured with the modes of transport that are available to them, because even the accessible transport that the hospital provides isn't actually accessible for them because of the things they have going on. So they need to be able to get a van and have it equipped to deal with the stuff that they deal with, essentially. And obviously that's not a cheap thing to have done, so they have set up a GoFundMe. It is quite a lot of money, and every little bit helps, you know? Like, if everyone that watches this donated £1, it would be a big help. Like, not that many people have money to be able to, like, donate $10,000. So, like, it's very much the community coming together to help each other is what I want to see. And I know it's hard, I know. I don't want to put pressure on people either. If you can give it a read, if you can share it, those are also very appreciated options that you have available to you. And obviously, I'm just some bitch talking to you from a video. You don't actually have to do anything. You can stop listening now, because I'm only going to tell you about my other friends' GoFundMe. But obviously these are important to me, and I would appreciate if you listen and check them out. So my other friend is someone who's local to me and is part of my local community for local people, and they've set up a GoFundMe to get top surgery. And I very sincerely hope that everyone who follows me here knows that we are trans allies and we love trans people, and a lot of my friends are trans and I adore them, and it's very, very difficult to get top surgery. And if you have any sort of issue with that, you can unfollow. And obviously if you don't have an issue with it, it'd be really, really cool if you went and donated to them, if you could have a little read of their situation, if you fancied sharing it for them. Any kind of that stuff would be really cool and really nice. I would very much appreciate it. So yeah, they'll both be linked down below. Do whatever the fuck you want with them. It'd be really cool if you donated, it'd be really cool if you had a look, it'd be really cool if you shared, but you can actually do whatever you want, and I really desperately don't want to put pressure on people. It doesn't make me feel good. That's not the attempt here. So I'm stopping with the talking now. Whoever you are, wherever you are, if you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.